Good afternoon, Professor. My name is Levin. I'm studying Educational Administration at University of Cambodia. So now I'm going to present you about the effective communication in human resource management. So here is my contents. So the first one is introduction. Second, functions of communication. Third, process of communication. Fourth, rule of communications in human resource management. Fifth, relationship between communication and human resource management. And sixth, benefits of communication in human resource management. And seven, why is effective HR communications is important. And the last one is conclusion. So let's get started with the introduction. So good maintaining and effective communication as a human resource strategy remained critical to build industrial harmony. So where the employees are highly motivated to keep the organization competitive through increased productivity and sustained growth. Therefore, using the right communications approach will drive positive outcome to the benefits of the organization. So every employee and manager believe that communication is essential to the success of the any company. So employee and manager should be prepared to examine and solve problems that will lead to the growth and development of the organizations. So the ability to communicate is an essential skill life, and it's also one that can only be continually developed. So it is a general belief that no group can exist without communication. So only communication can succeed at the completions of any task or business transactions that require more than one person. So the process of communications therefore involves imparting or exchanging of the information by speaking, writings, or using some other mediums. So then we move to the questions. What is communications? So communication is simply the transmissions of information from one place to another. It is information sharing in which the recipients understand how the message is intended to be delivered. So it is involved sharing ideas, beliefs, and opinions, and also it's a two-means process between sender and receiver. So communication is the sharings or exchange the ideas and meanings and experience by employers, and other stakeholders of an organizations. A mirror of a two-way interactions in which they constantly exchange positions as senders and receivers. And it's not a one-way process in which a person like the management or an organization is the either senders or all the time, and the employees are the receiving the idea all the time in the same view. But communications as the process through which an individual gets others to understand what he feels, what he thinks or wants on it, and accept them and take the actions if it's necessary. So this is how the communication is. And next is about the characteristics of the communications. So at least two people must be involved for communication to happen. There cannot one person communicated. That means we talk to ourselves. That's not called communications. So one person to send the message and the other person to receive it. So it involves shared meaning. So communications involves the use of the symbols like words, sound, numbers, letters, and gestures. So it requires skills in writing, reading, speaking, gestures, and listening. So that is a character. So second point is functions of communications. So in any organizations, effective communication is very important, and it is enables the organizational process of notifying, convincing, and encouraging. So in order to achieve great performance, workers must have excellent organizational verbal exchange com competencies. So communications serve four major purposes in organizations. So the first one is control, and second is motivations, third is emotional expressions, and the last one informations. So we will go through this. So informations is knowledge, and is a knowledge ensure that a worker is aware of the principle and system of a group. So if workers are fully trained, job security is also eliminated as well. So communications acts to control members' behaviors in several ways. And apart from controlling, communication also encourage motivations in clarifying who to do what, how to do it, and the employees to do it. And also communications provides the opportunity for employees to release their emotional expressions of feelings and for the fulfillment of social needs as well. And also communications facilitate the rule of decisions making by supplying information for the individuals and groups to base their decisions. So it does this by communicating data in order to identify alternatives and evaluate them. And also here is the functions of the communication. So the first one is effective communications encourage greater productivities. So here through the communications, employees will understand their job and their rules and what is expected of them. And second, effective communications employs a two-way system that allows subordinates to express themselves, ask questions, contribute ideas, and feels belong it. And third, effective communications enables organizations to avoid costly failures. And the last one is communications allows employees to communicate their needs and feelings among themselves, thereby ensuring that the spirit of corporations exists. And then we move to the communications goal. So why do we have to communicate? So there can be many reasons, but here I'm just list five why we about the communication goals. And the first one is to change the behaviors, and second to get the actions, and third to ensure understanding, and fourth, to persuade, and the last one is to get and give the information. So this is the goal of the communications. And the next one, we go to the process of communications. So process of communication as the exchange of the meaningful information with a view to understanding the intended message by the recipients. So it begins with the conceptualizations of strategies by means of the sender, who then transmits the message by way of a channels of the receivers, who in turn offers the feedback in the types of some message or sign within the given time periods. So then the communications process try to answer the what and how of communications. So that is the means and the stage of communications. And there exist different models to describe the process of the interpersonal communications. And that leads us to the key elements. So there are the senders, the receiver, the message, the medium, the channels, the context, and the last one is the feedback. Let me we go through each one of these. So here are the key elements. Continue. So the first one is the senders. So the sender or the communicator is the person who initiates the dialogues and has conceptualized the idea that he intends to bring to others. So this is the sender, and then the encoding. So encoding is the sender begins with the encoding system where he uses targets based on nonverbal approach. The comparable to symbols, indicators, physics, gestures, etc. So to translate the knowledge into the message, their sender talents advantage the perceptions, history, talents, and so on. So this has a nice effects on the success of the message. Then lead to the message. So the message can also be written oral, symbolic, or nonverbal, corresponding to the body gesture, silence, signs, sounds, and so forth. And it could also be some other signal that triggers the response of the receiver. And then lead us to the communications channels. So the senders choose the medium through which he needs to deliver his message to the recipients, the receiver. The receiver. So it must be selected carefully so as to send make the message strong and effectively interprets by using the recipients. So the alternatives of medium is determined by the interpersonal relationship between the senders and the receivers. And in addition on the agencies of the message being the dispatch, the orals, digitals, written, sound, gestures, and many others are one of the crucial typically used communic mediums. Yes, and then leads us to the number 5 receivers. So the recipient is the person who is expected to receive the message. So he or she try to appreciate it in the best possible manner, such that the communicate goal is attained. So the measures to which the receiver understand the message depends on his competencies of the subject matters, experience, trust, and relationship with the sender. So that is how receivers get the message. And next is decoding. So the recipients interprets the message of the sender and try to understand it in the best way. So a strong communication will happen if the recipients understand the message in the same way as the sender intends. Then take us to the taking of actions. So here is the positive message receives positive attentions, while negative message receives negative attentions. And then lead us to number 8, feedbacks. So it is the final step of the system that ensures the receiver has received the message and interprets it properly as intended by the senders. So it raises the effectiveness of the conversation because it enables the sender to understand the efficiency of his message. So the response of the receiver could also be verbal or non-verbal. So these are the key elements of communication. So then we move to point number 4, which is about rules of communication in human resource management. So communications in human resource management is the process which the managers use to be able to carry out functions such as planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. It also makes up the greater part of the responsibility of the managers. So, which is not carried out in isolations, but by interacting with and also communicating with others. So this is simply means that communication is the foundations upon which management functions are dependent. So that is the rule of communication, but first we must know what is human resource management. So human resource management is the term used to describe formal systems developed for people management within the organizations. So the rules and duty and tasks of human resource management also includes, I have also described about this in the previous videos presentations. So it includes the analysis and design of work, recruitment and selection, training and development, performance management, sessions, and also benefits, and also it includes employee relations, personnel policies, complaints, laws, and also about the support for strategy. So these are the rules and the tasks and the duties of the human resource management. And the aim of human resource management is essentially to maximize an organization's productivity by optimizing its employees' effectiveness. So this is human resource management. Then we move to the point number 5, which is about relationships between communications and human resource management. So communication is a crucial tool a human resource management needs to develop and sustain a smooth functioning work teams. So this is because all the functions of human resource are get toward managing employees for the goal of realizing the success of the organizations. So all the responsibility of human resource cannot be achieved without communications with the employees. So, for example, if there is going to be a change in the organizations to affect this change, it must be communicated with the employee who will in turn be the ones to implement the change. And without effective communications of whether change there is, the employees will not be able to affect the change, and thus the goal of human resource cannot be achieved. So the communication used by human resource to organize, direct, coordinate, and control employee activities as well as identify and satisfy their aspirations and expectations. So this is the relationship with the organization. So sorry, this maybe something is not expected. And the number 6 is about benefit of communications in human resource. So employee understand the corporate policy of the organization's core value, culture, missions, and also visions. So it also keeps employees informed of what is happening in the organizations. And another point, employees appreciate and support employees' benefits. More than that, it's more than dedicated and committed employees. So the needs of the employees are known and makes for the better employee developments. And it is create a better working environment, which is encourage maximum of productivities in the organization between the managers and employee. And then we move to the number 7, which is about why is effective human resource communication important. So effective human resource communication is important because communication is the means through which human resource can achieve its responsibility for the success of the organizations. So it is important to note that employees possess a wide range of fields experience which include background, knowledge, belief, and etc. And the field's experience affects the way information is decoded, and such as effective communications is important to ensure that every employee gets the right message and is only the same page in terms of understanding to guarantee the successful runnings of the organizations. So effective communications ensures that human resource develops and sustains a smooth running of working teams by organizing and directing employees, coordinating, and controlling their activities. So this can be summarized into ensuring that its establishment and this is disseminations of relevant informations, and also its influence employees through motivations, sensitizations, and also citations also. And the last one is using instructions, directives, and control to activate employees. Then lead us to the last point, which is conclusions. So the role of communications in human resource management cannot be overemphasized as it brings about employee motivations. So effective human resource, relations, as well as create an environment in which the worker can feel respect and values. So there must be a foundation of trust between management and staff, which means employees acceptance and have faith in intentions, decisions, and policies. So by and policy made by human resource management and accuracy of information disseminate and all guides toward the success of the goals of the organizations. So the effective communication depends on the ability of the individuals to read the other person or group's attitudes. So communications is the process through which an individual gets others to understand what he feels, what he thinks, what he wants, or what he needs, and accept them and take actions if necessary. And the last but not least is it is something that can be learned from behavior, and it reflects your emotions and feeling for the communications. So that's it for my presentation about the effective communication in human resource. Thank you.